Hello and welcome to our Insights podcast. I'm Leon Herszon, CEO of Value Edge Group and your host for this conversation. I'm excited to have with me my dear friend Frank Saladis, a project management expert, PMI Fellow, author, trainer, so much. But anyway, welcome, Frank. Very nice to have you here.
Well, nice to be here, Leon. It's good to see you. It's been a while, so I'm glad we get a chance to catch up.
Yes. So let me start by, you have a very long career. You have, I think, 3 decades in project management expertise, and we are showing our age, right?
Yeah, so, a little bit.
What first drew you to this field of project management? What is the origin of your interest in project management?
Well, my I say official or the entrance into the professional part of project management started at AT&T. I was working as a supervisor in the operations department and so on. I got transferred over to the project management organization, and my boss, his name was Dan Ono. He brought us into this new group called the Project Management Organization, and he was very interested in PMI, the Project Management Institute, and PMP, the Project Management Professional Certification. So he said, he brought these people into the group, that you had to get certified. You had 2 years to get certified as a project manager, or you had to find a new job. And the second thing was, he said you had to join the your local PMI chapter. So we said, okay, I guess we better do that. So we studied as a group. I think there were like 25 of us, and we all studied as a group for the PMP exam. And I got my PMP back in 1992. So, wow. And I'm number 535 in terms of PMP certification. So we've been around for a while. The second part, though, we had to join PMI. Now, I joined this group in 1989, and I joined PMI in 1990. And back then, the project management group at AT&T sent us to the PMI annual symposiums. So my first symposium was up in Canada, in Calgary. And this is where I got to see how PMI operated. I got to meet, project managers from around the world. And I also got to meet a lot of PMI fellows. And I was really impressed by all the different things that all these different project managers are doing from all over the world and in every industry. And I was kind of struck by the PMI fellows when I learned more about them, and they were getting awards for being PMI fellows and so on, that I said, when I grow up, I want to be a PMI fellow too. So I started my quest of working with PMI. I became the president of the PMI New York City chapter back in 1991. I was president of that chapter 4 times. Back in 1991, when I took on the presidency, there were only 45 members in the chapter. And I spent basically 10 years building that chapter, trying to find a board, putting together programs and things like that. And then when we finally started to move on and we had a solid organization going, I had 2,500 members. So I grew the chapter from almost nothing to the 2,500. And then we went through a series of updates and changes, and I ran for president again and managed to be elected 3 more times. So that's my background and how I got interested. And I would say from the PMI perspective, it was one of the best things I ever did, was because PMI and project management opened up so many doors for me. I've traveled to 38 countries. I've flown over 2.5 million miles. I've met thousands and thousands of project managers. I've done a lot of teaching. And so it's been a very rewarding thing. So that's kind of, in summary, all the things that kind of led up to my career in project management.
So for our viewers and listeners here, If you're thinking about a career, you're starting your career, look at that. It's a very promising career. Every company has projects. There is a need still today, very much a need on project management. Thank you. So you're being recognized as a PMI Fellow, Person of the Year. Based on your experience, Frank, what values, skills, competencies do you believe are the most essential for project managers right now, today? Of course, this thing progresses, right? Right now, in your view, what are the most important skills?
Well, I think about that a lot, and and I've even asked that question: what are some of the most important skills that we should have? And almost everybody says communication skills, and I say, yeah, that is definitely key. So, but communication is one of many. So I would say that my a very big skill or something you can continue to develop would be leadership. Okay, I think that people need, and communication is a subset of leadership as far as
Yeah.
I'm concerned. And you have to, number one, as a strong leader, you have to show extreme passion for what it is that you do. That you have to be fully committed to do it. You also have to be the type of person that understands that you don't have all the answers, that you have to ask other people for their input and make recommendations and things like that. Communication certainly being well spoken, articulate, but being a great listener. Being a great listener is probably one of the
Listen.
more important parts of that whole leadership skill. Being able to motivate, to show enthusiasm, to recognize people for the work that they do, strong acknowledgement skills. If you put that all together, but PMI we used to refer to these as soft skills. PMI refers to them now as power skills.
Power skills, yeah.
So if you take a look at all the power skills, I would put leadership on top, and then all of these things that are power skills are needed, and conflict management, dealing with difficult situations, and dealing with difficult people. I mean, sometimes we have tough people to work with, on the projects that we work on. Another one would be that there are different ways to communicate. You communicate with your peers a certain way. You communicate with people that report to you a certain way, and there's a way to communicate with executives. So continuously honing your communication skills of listening, adapting, learning, adjusting for your audience. I think that those are all the way I would look at it in terms of essential skills to be successful today.
That's so interesting because, in short, people is about how we relate with people, right?
Well,
Very good.
it's interesting you mentioned that because Dr. Harold Kersner, he and I have collaborated on several books over the years.
Yeah, I have one here.
Yeah, it's right up there. I see it. And the thing here is that he has a textbook. I think it's called Project Management: A Systems Approach to Planning, Scheduling, and Controlling Projects. And I had a hand in that textbook in aligning certain chapters with the PMBOK. Okay, and he said in the book, and it's in all of his editions, I think his 12th, 13th edition or something like that.
13, yeah.
But he said, what was I'm trying to think of the quote. 90% of project problems are caused by people, not by machines, tools, or equipment. And I asked people multiple times. If you think about the last problem that you worked on the project that you worked on, was it caused by people or machines, tools, or equipment? And almost all the time they say it was people. And then I would say, well, what are people doing that's causing all these problems? And the answer to that is that either they're doing something that they should not be doing, or didn't do something that they should have done. So we have to be good at encouraging people to do a good job, to do an excellent job. And people are going to make mistakes, and we need to be tolerant of mistakes. But at the same time, we look for ways to minimize those mistakes and to learn from those mistakes. So I think that that's another part of leadership too.
Very good. And I think it's a perfect segue. You talk about communication, you talk about leadership. Let me ask you this. With artificial intelligence becoming part of our day by day project work, not only project, but everything that we are doing, how do you see AI influencing leadership, communication, stakeholder engagement?
Well, AI, and this is my personal opinion, is a tool. Okay, and just like any other tool, you need to know how to use it well. Okay, and then it becomes a part of the project manager's toolbox. So, and then AI is a wonderful thing. If you need to develop an idea, if you're using the right prompts, it will provide you with quite a bit of information very, very quickly, which then you can sort through and organize and customize yourself. We don't want AI to take over our thinking for us and just simply take whatever face value is given. We need to use it, modify it, add to it, dig deeper, ask more questions, and really put our personal touch to it. So AI is great. It'll give us a lot of information. I've actually used it very recently on developing some programs, and it's a great tool, but it's not perfect. And there's a lot of data out there. It'll collect all that data for you, and then you need to kind of go through it, and you need to put your personal touch in it, which means that you need to be somewhat creative. You need to be a critical thinker about all that material. You have to understand, well, how much detail do you want to get into on it. You don't want to go outside of the boundaries that you've created. So it takes a little bit of work. So my comments on AI would be, let's use it as that tool, but never forget the human touch that belongs with it.
Yeah, and recently I was working on some content related to critical thinking, AI in critical thinking, right? The need for people to use critical thinking when they get the output, because there are several risks on AI that starts to agreeing too much with you, and especially if it's wrong, it's going to say yeah, it's correct when it's not. So if we don't use critical thinking, that might impact our work. And even more concerning is the young generation that start using that and stop doing the critical thinking that we are referring here, right? Just accepting, as you mentioned, as is, which is problematic.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
I think that AI can actually enhance your creativity. Okay, because it'll provide you with data, and you would say, I never really thought of that. That's really good. Let me look into that a little deeper. So you need to do some research, and we don't want AI to replace research. Okay, because if it replaces research, then you personally are not learning anything. So
Yes.
you use the information, you dig into it, you use the critical thinking, you assess. Do I understand that? Maybe I need a little bit more information about this, and then you dig deeper. So it's kind of like AI and then critical thinking. Okay, refine, go back to AI again, more critical thinking, kind of like a refinement process. But you have to be part of the research. You have to do it. You have to learn it. You have to understand it, and you need to be able to speak about it when you're not looking at your computer. Okay, those are things that I think are really, really important. I'm finishing up an article that I'm going to publish for the World Project Management Journal. It's about AI, and I was looking for a catchy title for this article, so I came up with AI EIO, meaning, and people say, well, what do you mean by that? Well, AI, of course, and then there's EI, which is emotional intelligence. So the title will be AI, comma EI with a exclamation point, like, oh, we need to have our emotions in there somewhere. The human side of dealing with AI, and it will be interesting. But like you said, there's a little bit of risk there that if we rely on it too much, we're going to lose the ability to really kind of think and reason, and therefore that's to me one of the biggest dangers and risks of AI. And we really need to get people to understand it's a tool. Use it as a tool, enhance your thinking, enhance your creativity, but don't replace it.
Yes, yes. Look forward to seeing your article. That's a very nice, catchy title indeed. And you mentioned human touch. I recently had a conversation with DB Roderick, who work in media and etc. He tell a very interesting story about when those equipments that can synthesize music came many years ago, and how that impacted the music industry, because it could replicate a violin or whatever it is, perfect pitch, but does not have sentiment, does not transfer all the human touch, that it's not there. And you are an accomplished guitar player, so I think you know exactly what I mean. Is when you have your instrument there and you're playing, you put your emotions out there. It's not supposed to be perfect, right? It's supposed to transfer that emotion, and AI will never be able to do that.
Well, you're right. It's funny you mention that, because when I do play, I put a lot of myself into that music. It's just you're transferring your emotions into the guitar. And people will see that. People will see that you're really having a good time. You're playing and you're smiling and you're just into it. And that you got to have that human touch. And I love to see live bands play. Okay, anytime musicians are playing, they're really into it. They're really passionate, and it's a whole lot different than listening to synthesized or recorded music or anything like that. But it's the human side, and I think that there are a couple of things that are going on with AI today that I think are interesting. Is in Hollywood they're creating these AI generated actors and actresses.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, they look like real people, but they're not. They are fabricated characters. And I would think that the actors and the organizations that support actors would have some really concern about, we're not going to use real people anymore. We're going to use AI. And I've heard some really good music created by AI. And I've listened to it and I said, it's actually pretty good, but I always felt that there was something missing in it. It was too like sterile. It was too like perfect. And I just hope that people will use AI for the benefit of learning, to share information with other people, but to not really kind of give up on their creativity and their innovation and rely on AI to do all the thinking for them. So it's a big
Yeah,
concern, and
used
I hope that people keep that in mind.
yeah, used to augment, not to replace, right?
Exactly, exactly.
And you mentioned about actors. So if you have AI playing a specific scene, it's going to play exactly the way the writer put there. But how many times actors actually change a little bit right there, and it became much better than anything that was on the script,
That's right. The
right?
spontaneous thinking, creativity, doing something a little unexpected that actually works better than the original script. I mean, all those things are important. So, like I said, AI, let's use it the right way, and let's not give up the human side of managing people and projects, and use it for research and use it to create presentations and to write papers, but put your personal touch in it. Make it look, feel like it's your message. It's not some fabricated message, but put something personal in it.
Great message. Thank you, Frank. Change a little bit here. You are the one who started International Project Management Day. What was, how did it come to you for that idea? Have a special day for project management, and after that, we both engaged with IIL for a long time. They launched that on a global scale, but you are the one who started the International Project Management. They still today, there PMI does that, you do that, IIL does, but it started with you. what was how you came with that idea?
Well, I attended the PMI had something called the Leadership Institute Master's Class. So I attended that class in 2000. I was from the class of 2004, graduated in 2004, and that was an 18-month leadership development program, honing our leadership skills, our ability to listen and deal with people and things like that. And at the commencement exercise, the professor, Jerry Brightman, said there were 25 of us, he said, go out and change the world. That was his, final message when he finished his speech. And I was thinking about that, and he said, change the world. Well, that's not an easy thing to do. What can we do to change the world? And I just started thinking about it, and I said, project management is really an unappreciated profession. People really do not know, even to this day, what project managers do. The only people that really know what project managers do is other project managers. So I thought about it, and I said, we need to get some recognition. And I was thinking, we have Mother's Day, we have Father's Day, we had Executive Assistants Day. In the U.S., there's National Beer Day. There's ice cream. There's even Ice Cream Sandwich Day, and Grandparents Day, and all these days. And I said, you know what? We need a day for project managers. So I started thinking about it, and I started thinking, you know what? Let's find a day, and we're going to designate it as International Project Management Day. We'll see what happens. And I talked to my graduates from that particular class, and I said, what do you think? And they said, what a great idea. So I said, we're going to designate this day as an International Project Management Day. And I went to the calendar, and I was looking for some day during the year, during the 365 days, that we could designate as International Project Management Day. Now, there in any day of the of the year, there is multiple celebrations or holidays on any given day. Okay. So I looked for the one that had the least number of activities and holidays, and that happened to be the first Thursday of November. So I designated International Project Management Day as the first Thursday of November every year. And I was doing a lot of training for the International Institute for Learning, IIL, at the time. And the CEO, Laverne Johnson, said, hey, that's a really good idea. And we had our first worldwide webinar on the first Thursday of November in 2005. We launched that, and we had a pretty good audience, probably several hundred people at the time, which for a webinar was actually pretty good back in 2004. But they decided to do that every year, and every year the technology improved a little bit, and we got more and more people from around the world and guest speakers coming in. And we had the first one, I believe, in 2005. Greg Balestrero was the CEO of PMI. He was on. We had a vice president from Hewlett Packard on. Of course, Howard Kersner, myself. We had this whole cadre of speakers. And then that just built and built and built right up until today. This past November 6th, the IIL International Project Management Day, they had like 30,000 people, lined up for it. So, and there were multiple events going on around the world. So it took a lot of traction. PMI picked up on it, and now we have enormous presence of International Project Management Day on LinkedIn, and lots of programs around the world. And the whole idea was just let's say thank you to our project managers. And the driving force was, and I even mentioned this in the training program I did last week, that most people, most things that people use every day, laptops, smartphones, cars, buses, trucks, trains, boats, planes, buildings, every one of those was created by a project manager and a project team. But you never see somebody walk into a building, like let's say in New York City, the Freedom Tower. It's an amazing project, right? but how many people will walk in there and look around and look at the place and say, wow, what a great project. I wonder who the project manager was.
Exactly.
You're not going to ever see that. So we needed that acknowledgement that that building, this place that you're at, the car that you're driving, the phone you're using, everything was the result of some project team and some project manager. And I put an original quote for International Project Management Day, and the quote says that you can see the value of project management in any skyline. Meaning, if we didn't have project managers and project teams, we wouldn't have skylines, So we just encourage people to take a minute and learn a little bit more about what project managers do, because in many cases, they really don't understand the challenges of dealing with projects every day.
Frank, thank you for you starting us up on that. It's amazing how much it grew. All right, so project management evolved a lot throughout our careers, right? You and I, we saw a lot of changes. In your perspective, what is the biggest change that you observed in project management so far? And what is that you're expecting for the future in project management? So, two questions. What is the biggest change? What you see happening in the future?
Well, I guess the biggest change, I'm just going to go kind of historically through this. Project management has been around for a long time. If you read any book on project management, they kind of go back to the pyramids and things like that. So we always had project management. We had very, very formal project management through the military during World War II, the Manhattan Project. That's when, we'll say, formal project management really kind of took hold. And then that kept evolving. And then, of course, PMI said, you know what, this is a real profession. Let's make it an official profession. So in 1969, we had PMI. And then in 1982, I think, they started to make that credential, the PMP, get people, certified as project managers. And then a little bit later on, around in 1989, and this is where change started to really take place, critical change came to be. Eli Goldrath wrote the book Theory of Constraint, and that was a significant change in project management, going from what was called, traditional, critical path method to critical chain, which was more focused on better use of resources and better use of time. And then a major change took place in around 1991, 92, when Agile was introduced into the software world. And of course, that has now evolved much more into what we'll call mainstream project management. So now we have what is called predictive. We have hybrid, which is a combination of predictive and agile. And then we have agile. And then agile is continuously morphing and changing. Last time I checked, there were 50 different versions of agile. So that's where the biggest changes were taking place, was this agile predictive. Predictive doesn't really work well in certain projects, but agile works better, and vice versa. That predictive works really good in this, and agile doesn't nearly work as well.
But you're not going to build a house using agile, right?
But if you look at the Agile Manifesto and the 12 principles of Agile, there's a lot of really good things in there. And I use a quote. I don't really know where the quote came from, but the quote was that project management is nothing more than organized common sense. And so common sense tells us that agile, predictive, hybrid, pick the one that fits best, use some good judgment here. Okay. And then there was another quote that basically says, every change is a project and every project is a change. So if you're going to change something, you have to be able to adapt. You have to kind of be agile, not from a methodology perspective, but more from an organizational agility perspective. And you need to be able to make quick decisions, use the right tools. And then, of course, AI is now topping the list. Everybody talks about AI in project management. And so that is going to be the continuing big change for the next few years. It's still evolving, and that gets back to our discussion. Let's use that as a tool, not to replace. And I think we have to keep an eye on that. So if I kind of go through all of that real quick, AI is now the current, most influential thing that's happening within the project management world. And we just have to keep an eye on it, and let's not let the tool take over the job. Let's have the job use the tool to become better project managers.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. So, what is your advice for our viewers and listeners to balance the technical skills with the power skills, as you mentioned, right? Because projects you have to have both. What is in your experience, the secret to balance those two elements to have a successful project?
The issue of technical project managers, I mean, that's probably going to go on for a while, and people may or may not agree with it, and there'll be some debate about it. But my suggestion, and this goes back, I spent some time after I had retired from AT&T. I went over and worked at Cisco Systems for a while, and one of the challenges was that the people running the projects were highly technically proficient people. They were experts, and what we know about being a project manager, the role of the project manager, is that your role is to be the integrator, coordinator, problem solver, obstacle remover kind of a thing. And you're not down there in the weeds, building stuff, right? And that was a problem across a lot of industries where the project managers were so technically trained that that's what they wanted to do. And they would let a lot of the other things that were in the project kind of, just fall apart. So the solution to that we had discussed I was in the project management organization at Cisco, was that we needed to have what we called technically credible project managers, not technically competent, so that you weren't going to be drawn down into the details because you really didn't know how to do that, but you could speak the language. So the project managers went to overview classes and training to find out more about what this product was, or this service, or this deliverable, so that they could actually speak with the designers and the engineers in an intelligent way, but to stay in the role of the project manager, while the technical people that had that competency would do the work. So we went from technically competent project managers to technically credible. And the way I could describe that would be, if you're in the software development industry, that over time you're going to build up an understanding of how those projects are done, the language that the people use, and things like that. You don't necessarily have to be the programmer and actually test, although you might pick up some of that skill. But you stay in this area of software development. Now, if we take the same project manager, maybe that person's been working on a project for 20 years, doing different projects in the software development area, and then they said one day, you know what, you're going to go and build that 60-story high-rise building in the middle of Manhattan. That's going to put the project manager at a disadvantage, because you have a whole new technology, all new terminology, all new way of doing things. So what we would really want is to have someone that has that credibility, that I've done these before, be involved as the project manager there. Now, some people will probably not agree, but I think that having an understanding of the technology that you are about to project manage will make it a big advantage for you as a project manager. But you don't have to necessarily know how to build it and test it and deploy it. That's what other people do. They're the people that have the technical expertise. And one other thing is that I don't think these technical people want project managers to get down into their work. I mean, I have my work to do, you have your work to do. So let's make sure that we maintain that balance. And I think that would work out for the best for everyone.
Yeah, I want to touch on what you mentioned about credibility, right? Many project managers are overwhelmed because they have to do everything, all things for all people. You have all the stakeholders and etc. What guidance would you give to someone trying to grow their credibility and the leadership presence at the same time?
Well, I would say number one, and this it's really important. You have to know your limitations. Okay, don't commit to things that you know that you really can't do, and don't try to pretend that you know things that you don't know. Okay, ask for assistance when you can. Be honest with your management if they give you something to do that's really most project managers that I know, their plate's pretty full, and there's always somebody asking, "Well, can you do just one more thing?" And for your own self protection, for your own health, you have to say, "Well, wait a minute, okay, I'd be happy to do this. Which one of these other items that you gave me should I put on the back burner so that I can actually do this?" I would say to anyone, never say, "No, I can't do it." I think that it's going to send the wrong message. Even if it's very, very honest, there are ways to say, "I can't do it." And one of those ways would be to say, "Okay, if this is important, you'd like to have that done for me. I'm going to need you to make a decision about which one of these projects I can put on the side so that I can handle what you're giving me." So we need to be, very diplomatic, and at the same time, we have to show us that, hey, we do have limitations, and that the other side, the management, needs to understand that, and they have to make some decisions too, because they're also going to be accountable for that.
So I mentioned before, and you are an accomplished guitar player. How does music influence the work that you do? Right? We're talking about project management. We're talking about leadership and etc. In music, sometimes we do not connect, but it has some influence, right? So, what is the impact of music in your day by day work and what you do?
Well, everybody needs an escape from the daily, trials and issues that you see in project management. I don't know any project manager that doesn't go through any day where there isn't at least one challenge. So you need something to kind of lessen the load a little bit, make you feel better, reduce the stress, and music is definitely a way to do that. So I think you'll find a lot of people at the end of the day, they might sit down and listen to some of their favorite music, kind of relax. But the thing about music is that when you are listening to things that you really like, you get into what is called a state of present mindedness. You're getting very relaxed. Your brain is kind of focusing on the music and listening, but it's also causing your brain waves to kind of get aligned, and you actually become more creative during that alignment time called present mindedness. And that's when rich ideas come out. Okay. And as an example, you're listening and you say, "Oh, when I get to work tomorrow, I'm going to do this because I think it's going to be really great." But you fail to write it down. So then you get up from your relaxing session and you say to yourself, what was that idea? I can't think of it anymore. It's gone. And then you might think about it 3-4 months later. So music gives you a chance to relax. It gives you a chance for your brain to relax and get all your brain waves in like alignment. And then it becomes this creative generator of ideas. But the secret is always have something you can record your idea on it, because you're going to forget it if you don't write it down.
They're going to pop up, right?
That's right. So now you have it and you can actually work with it. Another thing about music, I use it for fun too. And I've written a few songs about project management. And one of them I recorded and put it on YouTube. It's called the Project Manager Blues. And I recorded that years ago. And I got about maybe 50,000 hits on YouTube for it. But
Oh, wow.
it's a story of being a project manager, and it's done in a fun way. So use music to be creative. I've written a few poems about project management too, and it's a way of being creative and taking all this knowledge and kind of sharing it in a different way. And I took this one poem that I wrote. It was called The Plan. It's just the name. It was called The Plan. And it was really the importance of actually having a project management plan. And it's done in a rhyme and all that. And the UN, some department in the UN that was working on developing some programs in Africa, contacted me and said, could we use your poem, The Plan, in the beginning of our workbook? And I said,
Oh, wow.
why not?
That's so nice.
So, I still have a copy of that. I should put that up on LinkedIn and post it for people to see. But the music is a kind of a respite. It's sort of like you can relax with it. You can be creative with it. You use it to be more creative. And, and if you do it often enough, you just have this, it becomes like a routine. I need to relax. Let me put some music on. And then you start thinking about things that are very creative. So, I mean, it really helps a lot.
Thank you. So for our viewers here, Project Management Blues, right? YouTube.
Project Manager Blues on YouTube. That's right.
Here you go. Go in and watch that one. All right. We're approaching the end of our conversation. I wish we had more time, Frank, but let me ask you, can you give us one or two books that were instrumental in your career that you found very important for you that you can share with our viewers here?
Wow. Okay. What comes to mind, just the first one, I mean, it was because I wrote a program, actually a course on creativity and innovation. The idea behind that was that I would like to see project managers become more creative and innovative. So the first book that comes to mind is called, it's a funny title. It's called A Whack on the Side of the Head. A Whack on the Side of the Head. And it was by Roger von, I pronounce his name Eck. I think it's Uch, O-E-C-H. And that book gave me all kinds of creative ideas. So I had a lot of fun with that. And another one that comes to mind was John C. Maxwell, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And I look at that a lot. And one of the laws, I'm not sure I remember the law, it might have been 14, was the law of connectivity. And what that means is that if you're going to be a leader, you have to stay connected with your team. That don't let them stray, make them feel like they're important, talk to them one-on-one once in a while, but stay connected with your team. So those two immediately come to mind as books that have always had some influence for me.
Excellent. So, final thoughts. What do you want to say to our viewers and listeners here?
Well, first of all, if you're an aspiring project manager, then the important thing is to continue to learn, make professional development part of your daily life. You should be always looking to learn something new. Share as much as you can with other people, especially you more senior project managers. Make contributions to the profession, to people that are aspiring to be project managers. For the senior project managers who've been for a while, become a mentor. For the aspiring project manager, find a mentee, and always stay in a learning mode. And do what you can to share and contribute as much as you can, and always keep in mind the human side of project management.
Frank, once again, thank you so much for joining us. As I usually say, I would love to have another chance to talk with you. So let's see if we can schedule some time in the future to catch up again. Thank you.
I'd be happy to do that. It's fun to do this. I like to just kind of reminisce about things and have these conversations. So I would look forward to another session in the future.
Thank you, Frank.
Okay. Thank you, Leon.